Good afternoon, everyone. It is wonderful to see people gathering here in honor of Bob Armstrong. I am really excited to get this symposium launched. We have wonderful New England weather to help welcome all of you here and talk about all the things that Bob has done for us. So I'd like to get us started. And, one of the things I've always noticed about Bob is he's always had at least a touch of a wonderful Southern accent because he is from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And his early life, I think this is the sweetest 2-year-old picture. I think it's age 2. He has always been curious about the outside world. He was raised his father was actually involved in Ethel Corporation and was a chemist, so he had some exposure to that. And in high school, he had excellent academics, but he's also a super cool drummer in a band, which was really impressive. He was involved in sports, and he was just an all-around person, but very intense in his studies, which led him to go off to Georgia Tech. And he was a yellow jacket and got his degree in chemical engineering, very excited about the opportunities to impact society and address energy and energy solutions. Now, he went off from Georgia Tech to Wisconsin. He went from the world of the warm to the world of the cold. And in doing so, he took on PhD studies with Professor Robert Byrd. And Bob Byrd, of course, was incredibly famous and had already written the book on transport. Bob actually brought in a new perspective as he worked in Byrd's lab, moving from continuum models to molecular approaches to understanding polymeric and related complex fluids. This is essentially the time frame was 1973 when he completed his PhD. He started in 1970. So I have to say this was a 3-year PhD period. And apparently the thesis was typed by his wife, Debbie, on a Smith Corona typewriter. And Bob hand wrote the equations in between the spaces. But along with that incredible thesis that he wrote, which had some very important concepts about that molecular approach, he and his research group mate, Ole Haseker, brought the idea of a textbook to Bob Byrd, leading to the development of the dynamics of polymeric liquids, first published in 1977, second edition in 1987, incredibly highly cited book that is still available today. And I'll talk a little bit later about Bob's efforts in education and scholarship. This was only his first foray, but I think he was 24 or 25 when he was doing this. I don't know how many people, are authors on a textbook at that point in their career. It's very unique, but it's very characteristic of Bob. Now, Bob began his life at MIT as an assistant professor in 1973, at that age of 25. And we're very fortunate to have had him these past 50 years. He rapidly became a leader in the field of computational fluid mechanics and complex fluids, and he launched a highly impactful academic career. Bob was an excellent teacher. He liked to encourage his students to begin learning by asking the right questions and making proposals. He was thoughtful, patient. He sought to engage students in a mode of inquiry that would lead them to deeper understanding. And this is something that is very difficult to do, especially with very complex subject material. But Bob was able to do that and somehow set students at ease and help them understand the complexity and the approach to solving a problem. A quote from a TA in one of Bob's transport classes was, his teaching style was creative and challenging. He'd often tell us the answer is a very good proposal. First, let's see how they got there. Then we'll come up with our questions. Bob was also heavily involved in expanding the research ideas that I described before, and he formed very important partnerships especially with Bob Brown, who is also in the room here. And here we see the two of them thinking reflexively and about important computational fluid mechanics problems. They formed a very strong alliance, and I'm sure that in the audience and throughout the world, there are many students who benefited from that partnership. Bob's work was recognized all around the world. This photo with Bob and Debbie is from his receipt of the Beanham Medal in 2006, taken in Bangor, Maine. He had a very highly impactful academic career and was received with recognitions that included election into the American Academy of Arts and Sciences and the National Academy of Engineering. Along with receiving the Beanham Medal from the Society of Rheology, which is devoted to the study of the science of deformation and flow of matter, he received the AICHE Founders Award, the AICHE Warren K. Lewis Award, and as he had started his career, the Professional Progress Award from the American Institute of Chemical Engineers. So I pause at this because this is how many of us know Bob, was his huge contributions as a department head and more broadly as an educator across the world. And here we see him in several different roles that he played as department head. He is especially appreciated for the contributions that he made to our department in those 11 years from 1996 to 2007, when he was department head. This is a really critical period of growth for us. And during that time, he hired 13 of our faculty, including more than 25% of our current faculty members. During his time as head, he helped expand the breadth of the department, expanding our areas in biological and biochemical interfaces, in areas that essentially looked more in the materials and material science areas, and really helping chemical engineering reflect the depth and the breadth that it had, the potential that it had. During this time, he was a very thoughtful and proactive mentor to all of us as faculty members. He's been a true advocate of the department at every stage of his professional career. He was a dedicated teacher, but he was also playing very important roles in the department. And even as department head, he taught a number of our core courses, including 1050, which is no joke to teach. He was also, during this time, active as a director in the AICHE. He led an important effort in chemical engineering education curriculum. And this is something that he's very well known in. Active in discussions that he was having, traveling from place to place about the profession's identity. Chemical engineering was changing. This is a critical time for us. And how the field should evolve. He led a study on the subject that was funded by the NSF, and he was very prominent in the AICHE deliberations about who we were, who we are as a field. During that time, that series of workshops, he was able to help modernize the education of a new generation of chemical engineers. And this is a very lasting contribution that we owe to Bob. I should mention that the name of a study that he produced during this time frame in 2006 was A Vision of the Chemical Engineering Curriculum of the Future, published in the Chemical Engineering Education Journal, and there's a chapter by the same name in Chemical Engineering Visions of the World that's published in both English and Chinese. I should mention I have personal experiences with Bob, which began when I got my own degree, and here he is hooding me as I got my PhD. And as a junior faculty member, he was a true mentor to me and helped shape how I approach problems, this very calm, thoughtful way in which he thought about a problem and moved toward a solution was something that I observed and really tried to echo. The way that he tried to build consensus, the way that he thought about where we're going in the field, and the very deliberate strategic approaches that he took are things that really inspired me personally. Now, Bob is also highly celebrated because of the huge contributions that he has made in the field of energy, and specifically in helping to co-found MITI, the MIT Energy Initiative. He co-founded it in 2006 with Ernie Moniz, helping to establish one of the most critical advances at MIT to date. Throughout his leadership at MIT, he facilitated numerous collaborations between MIT researchers and industry and government. And these have led to vital innovations in energy management and research. He chaired MIT's The Future of Energy Storage study and was a member of MIT's Future of Solar Energy and Future of Natural Gas study groups. He advised the teams that developed MIT's reports, Insights into Future Mobility, and the Future of Nuclear Energy in a Carbon-Constrained World. And he co-edited Game Changers, Energy on the Move with former US Secretary of State George Shultz. All of these efforts led to MIT's prominence in the effort around energy advancement, which was why President Obama chose to introduce his energy policy at MIT. And here you can see Bob shaking hands with Obama during that remarkable visit when that presentation was made right here at MIT Kresge. I have to say that Bob's contributions to MIT continued as he began to move MIT toward addressing climate and sustainability and the context of energy in a world that is challenged by climate change. And a lot of his efforts have had very real impact and meaning to our students now. So I'm coming toward the end because I know we only have so much time and we need to get started, but I want to mention that Bob is also known for his humor and his wit, as well as his kindness and generosity. And these images represent Bob as Santa at one of our holiday parties with Debbie very kindly playing along with this. And you see in the corner there, you can hardly see him, but he's this figure right here. This is one of our big celebrations. This might have been for Ken Smith, I believe, at one of the museums. But Bob is known, whatever the occasion is, when he presides, he is going to come with some humor, some bad jokes that are funny because of his mode of delivery, and he is just known to charm and use his wit to lighten every event, and he brings that with him. We all know that about him. But he's also one of few department heads I know willing to sit in the dunk chamber for the Graduate Student Council's event. And here he is, and I do believe you got wet a few times. It's Ernie's fault, that's it. So I'd just like to conclude, it is really apparent throughout Bob's notable career that Bob has always been looking toward the future in the fields of chemical engineering and energy with great optimism and thoughtfulness. And we're really enormously grateful for his service, his leadership, and his mentorship. And we're optimistic about what his future holds. We will always be able to knock on his door and get advice. I'm sure that Bob will welcome that. Bob, we will miss your presence on an everyday level and your intelligence and humor and wit. Congratulations on 50 wonderful years at MIT. Thank you.